So we are starting with, or I should say continuing with worksheet 7-3, okay? We did examples 1 through 3. Now we're gonna do 4, 5, and then I'm gonna add an example 6, okay? What you can see here, hopefully in example number 4, is it doesn't look like our previous examples, okay? This one we had to change a little bit and bring all the non-squared quantities to the other side, but otherwise it was in standard form. So what we're trying to do here is isolate, right, this squared term on one side, and that should be equal to a factored form. So similar to what we have here. So this is a previous page. So if you remember, right, we should have the x in binomial form squared equals some coefficient, and then y minus some constant here. Or if it's the y that's being squared, right, then we have that in binomial form, then some constant. This should be in factored form. So your goal here is to have squared quantity on one side, factored form on the other, all right? So if I take a look at this guy, I can see that the y is being squared, all right? So I'm gonna leave any variable with a y on the left-hand side, and then I'm gonna add the 4x and the 4 to the other side, okay? So now this is already in squared form, okay? It's literally y squared, so we're good with that one. So the only thing I have to do here is factor the right-hand side, and that is my standard form, okay? So there's my squared side and then my factored side, all right? So now if I take a look, I know from what we talked about yesterday that since it's a y squared and it's a positive 4p, this guy's gonna open to the right, okay? And then the second thing I know is that I have a vertex, okay? And again, just like I did on the homework that you guys did on the homework last night, you're gonna tell me what the vertex is. So here my vertex should be -1, 0, because always the opposite sign to the x, and then there's nothing added or subtracted to y, so that's a 0, okay? So we have -1, 0, that's my vertex, okay? And then step 3, right, we always find our p, so it's 4p equal to the constant outside in factored form. So p should be 1. So then my distance to my focus, right, and I know my focus is on the right-hand side here because my parabola should be opening up to the right. So my focus is here. So I know my focus is going to be what? Actually the origin, 0, 0. Okay, and then my directrix is going to be on the opposite side, and that's going to be a vertical line at x equals -2, okay? So I got that. And then the last thing is I need 3 points, right? So we need to determine the width here. So if I look 4p, right, this value, that's always the length of the lattice rectum. So the lattice rectum here is 4 units long. So from the focus, I'm gonna count up to and down to, and then that will give me my parabola, okay? So always getting it in standard form, okay? So now if I take a look at my next example, okay, I have this guy, okay? So I can see, right, that my y squared is here, all right? So I can't do anything with this unless I have just the y squared here, because I'm eventually going to have to complete the square. So I got to get rid of this guy here. So if I'm multiplying this whole side by 1/4, I can, to eliminate that, multiply each side by 4, okay? That will cancel out with the 1/4, okay? And I will then have 4x equals y squared plus 2y plus 33, okay? Now, as I said before, this side, whatever's the squared variable, okay, that we should be writing in a binomial squared form. So what that means is I'm going to actually be using completing the square, okay, to get this into standard form. So think about it over here, right? If you're completing the square, you're going to move this c value to the other side. So I'm going to subtract 33. So then I have 4x minus 33 equals y squared plus 2y. And then I've got to add some constant here to complete the square. But whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other, so there's going to be some constant I add over here, okay, and balance the sides of the equation. So now if I take half this, right, and square it, that's going to be 1. So I'm going to add 1 to the right side, 1 to the left side. And then I'm going to get, what, 4x minus 32 equals, and then if this is, what, y squared plus 2y plus 1, that factors to y plus 1, right, because 1 is the quantity I squared to complete the square, so that always goes in my factored form. And then over on this side, I should factor this as well. So this should be 4 and then x minus 8. Okay? So now I can see from this that my vertex is going to be 8 comma negative 1. Okay? So x and y, always the opposite signs. My second step is my constant in front of the non-squared, right? That's going to give me 4p equals 4. So p is 1, okay? So if I graph this guy, right, I'm going to go over 8. So 5, 6, 7, 8, down 1, okay? And then I'm going to, since this guy, oop, I forgot to determine the way it opens. So my y is squared and my 4p is positive, so it's going to open to the right, okay? So that means when I count my focus, that's going to be 1 unit over, okay? So my focus is going to be 9 comma negative 1. And then my directrix is going to be, right, a vertical line at x equals positive 8. All right, so we have that. Then, sorry, that should be x equals 7, I believe, right? Because this is 8. Okay, so we got x equals 7. And then my LR, right? So this is actually 1, 2, 3, and then 4. My LR is going to be 4 units again, because that's my, okay. So I'm going to, from the focus, count up 2, down 2, and then I got that, okay? So that is my parabola. Now, I want to show you one more example, okay? So we're going to add an additional question number 6. So if you want, get a separate sheet of paper, okay? Or just flip this over to the back and then copy this down for me, okay? So it should be y squared minus 2y minus 8x, okay? Equals negative 1. So now, if you take a look at this guy, okay, we want to isolate the squared term, right? So this has a y squared, so I'm going to add the 8x to the other side. Then I'm going to, there's going to be some value that's going to complete the square on that side for me. Then I have 8x minus 1, right? And then I'm going to complete the square on, and I'm going to have to balance the equation. So when I complete the square here, I've got to add the same constant to that side, all right? So now y squared, right? So this will be y squared minus 2y plus 1, right? Because I'm going to square a negative 2 divided by 2. That's going to be a 1. And then this is going to be, I'm adding 1 and 1 to the side. So 8x minus what? Oh, 0. This is a 0, isn't it? Okay, so now I got that. So now this guy is y minus 1. Be careful of your signs, okay? Squared equals 8x. Now you can think of this as 8 times x minus 0 if you want, all right? But there's just no constant added or subtracted here, all right? So our vertex, okay, is going to be 0, comma 1. So if I sketch this guy, I have 0, comma 1. Okay, so that's my vertex. And I know, again, that the y is squared and I have a positive 4p, so that means again I'm going to be opening this way. I don't know why all my examples are doing that, but they are today. So I have that. So that means my focus is going to be somewhere on the right-hand side here, okay? So if I find, this is my first thing, second thing I usually find, third is 4p equals 8, so p is 2. So that means if I go 2 to the right, that's my focus, okay? And then 2 to the left, that is my directrix. So focus is gonna be, 2, 1. And my directrix is gonna be x equals -2. And then to find the other 2 points, right, my latus rectum, so my fourth step here, is going to be 8 units. Okay, so I'm gonna count 1, 2, 3, 4 up, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and down. And then my parabola is gonna be the correct width here, my sketch. And there you go, okay? Some teachers have you actually label the points for the LR. So LR, like the first LR point would be what, 2, and then what's this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 2, 5. And then this guy is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's wrong. Did I do that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah. So that's right, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, so this should be here actually. So that should be 4 units. So now this is 2, -3, okay? And that would have a total distance between those two of 8 units, okay? So that is where you need to use completing the square to write it in standard form, okay? So again, it should be in some quantity squared, okay? And it could be just a y squared or x squared if that coordinate is 0 for the vertex. And then over on the right-hand side, it should be in factored form if you can. If it can't be factored, it should just, you know, remain 8x or however. So hopefully that makes sense. Tomorrow we will finish this where we are writing equations with some given information, all right? And then we will all set with parabolas, okay? Again, you guys can email me if you have questions. So far, it seems to be going well, and I hope you guys are doing well.